Left Planet, and I'm your host, Warita Wimbush, and today's episode is abortion. Legalized abortion is a form of Neo-Chattel Slavery. That is the subject for today's discussion. And we're going to start by discussing these main topics because this may become a series. Main topic is elitism and its of impact on society, particularly the Black community, and how it shaped the eugenics agenda and how abortion was weaponized by the eugenics agenda to enforce population control, which is a elitist progressivist ideology. And how one's participation in abortion, the participation and promotion of abortion, is to reintroduce chattel slavery, and particularly the chattel slavery of African Americans, back into American society. So let's discuss it. Now, legalized abortion traffics in death. Let's talk about God's view of this. Proverbs 30:14 states, there is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth is knives to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men. Abortion is a form of elitism. Elitism seeks to destroy the most vulnerable and the most innocent because it views those who are vulnerable, those who are innocent, as burdens on society. It views vulnerability as imperfection and innocence as ignorance. It has little or no emotional intelligence, nor empathy, nor compassion. This is also the flaw of man-made artificial intelligence. Elitism and artificial intelligence are forms of pseudo-intelligence that relies upon the self-intellect and ingenuity of man rather than trusting God and God's guidance. We only see things from the limited perspective of man. God is almighty and all knowing, all seeing, omnipotent, all powerful. He is King of kings and Lord of lords. Proverbs 3:5 states. Let's see, there we go. Proverbs 3:5 states, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. Isaiah 5:20-23. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward, and take away the righteousness of righteous from him. And this is what has been occurring with this issue of abortion. Abortion is a terrible, 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 terrible act. It is an egregious act. If you were to see an abortion being performed, it's hard to believe that you would be in agreement with it. I don't understand how one could see the aftermath of an abortion, particularly midterm and late term abortions, and be fine with that, and want it's just horrible. It is horrible. I have a I found pictures. I have pictures from Live Actions, which is a pro life. It is a pro life news source, right? I have pictures from Live Actions site of an aborted baby. And this baby, every time I look at that picture, I start to cry and call on Jesus. And I apologize to that precious little old baby. That baby's face, half of that baby's face is there. It was torn off. The eyelids are torn. It's just absolutely terrible. It is a terrible thing. Absolutely terrible. And we have to stop this. We have to stop this. Those children are alive. They are alive in the womb. Ask Dr. Ben Carson. They are alive. Okay, he has performed fetal surgeries. Those kids are alive. Okay, from being from zygote, even in a step, if it's a step before that, to embryo, to from gamete to zygote, well, not gamete, but zygote, embryo, fetus, all from the moment of conception, all stages of life. From the moment of conception, each stage of life is a stage of development. It's just because one is in the womb does not mean that they are not alive. Just because one has just been conceived does not mean that they are not alive. They are alive. Everybody starts from the point of everybody's life, according to biology, begins from the point of conception, but according to God, God says in Jeremiah that he knew us before he formed us in the womb. Okay. So just don't give up, don't get discouraged, go focus on God. If you feel like you may have to have an abortion, please don't do it. There's somebody, God will send you somebody who will be a great parent to your child. If you feel like you can't, you know be there for it that way, please give that child the opportunity and life. They allow that child has a right to life. Allow that child to live their life. They can overcome any, especially with God, they can overcome any circumstances, any trial, tribulation coming their way. Right now, I'm dealing with a lot of situations and circumstances, and I'm like, and I have been since I was a little bitty girl, and I've been like, oh Lord, what am I gonna do? But don't faint, because that's what Satan wants us to do. He wants us to faint and be discouraged, and we have to put an end to this. Abortion is a horrible, horrible thing. I'm jubilant that Roe versus Wade was overturned to allow states to have control over whether or not abortion is performed in their state. You know, So I'm glad for that. But abortion has to end altogether. It's an atrocious form of human trafficking for profit. That is what it is, an atrocious form of human trafficking. That is what it's become. Since 1973, abortion has killed over 63 million Americans. Black women, I need you to know 19 million of those Americans were black people, okay? Which puts black women back into the position that black women were in during slavery, the position of breeder. If you volunteer yourself to promote and participate in abortion, as a black woman, especially, you are putting yourself in the position of breeder. As like the handmaiden women being protesting, those who support abortion are putting themselves in the position, those who are promoting and participating in abortion are putting themselves in the position of being a handmaiden. Other people are benefiting and profiting off of you and your actions. 19 million black women, 19 million of the Americans that have been aborted since 1973 were black people. Abortion is the leading cause of death in the black community, though when you hear certain black elitists who manage to get a platform on the radio or on the radio or on TV within your local community, they don't really mention abortion being the leading cause of death. But when it comes to them stop the violence rallies and that kind of stuff, oh, they out front and center. But yet they want to take away your rights, your Second Amendment rights to bear arms to protect yourself from the criminals who are going to go and get a gun, they can legally get one or not, they're gonna get one. Yeah. And then they're gonna let the crime skyrocket and escalate, and then get the big in the government, state and local, state, and federal government for money for crime control. Though they continue to do things like defund the police, take effective discipline out of the schools. To basically allow lawlessness and violence to escalate, to allow those things to escalate at your expense. In a given year, 259,360 black lives have been lost to abortion, and in contrast, 75,249 are lost to heart disease, 69,389 are lost to cancer, 9,173 are lost to homicide. Totaling altogether, those three combined, 153,886 lives lost, black lives lost. Black people make up 13% of the population, and black women only represent 6% of the total population, yet account for 36.9% of the nation's abortions, whereas white women account for 36% of the nation's abortions. However, white people are 76% of the nation's population, So abortion alone, abortion alone has caused the loss of 259,336 black lives in a given year. And though only 6% of the population, only 13%, only 6% of the population are black women, and 13% of the population are black people, yet black people represent 36.9% of the nation's abortions, whereas white women only account for 36% of the nation's abortions, and that's low considering white people are 76% of the population, whereas black people are 13% of the population. Black people, you are causing yourselves to go extinct. We are nearly at the point of being extinct right now, okay? Now, Brother Naheem he and I were in the American Descendants of Slaves group on not Black Planet, on Facebook. And I noticed that a discussion topic was on abortion, and most of the people in the group, to my true dismay, were in support of abortion. And I'm thinking that is you all speak against systemic racism. You all fight for reparations, and the main weapon of systemic racism that has been used against black people, aside from the penal institution, has been the penal institution, mass incarceration. The main one has been abortion. Abortion is a form of eugenics. Eugenics is a form of population control. Population control is a form of progressive. It is a tenet of progressivism. And progressivism is an elitist ideology. Progressivism is an elitist ideology. So when you support it as a black person, when you support abortion, you are supporting the agenda of your enemies who are discriminating against you, marginalizing you because of the stratified, because of the race-based system of class stratification which they created in order to disseminate wealth and power within this country. You know? So Brother Way L commented, and I was glad because I was going to do it, but after I read his comment, I said, "Well, he said it better than me." And I told him that, and I told him I was going to be quoting him from now on because I am a pro-life writer, and that I will be quoting him in my writings, in my article. Brother Way L stated, quoting facts from abort73.com, which is a great resource if you want to learn more about the impact of abortion on the black community and the roots of abortion in the black community. Right? Go to abort73.com. That's a great resource, right? Louisiana Black Advocates for Life website is too. Okay. Particularly if you live in the state of Louisiana, but like I do. Okay. Brother Wet L stated, based on the January 2018 estimate that there have been 60 million abortions in the United States since 1973. 20, we can deduce that well over 18 million of them were performed on black babies. As of July 2017, the black population in the U.S. is somewhere around 40 million, which means that abortion has reduced the size of the black community by more than 30%. And that doesn't include the children and grandchildren that would have been born to those aborted more than a generation ago. That is from Brother Wayl quoted it from Abort 73's Abortion and Race. Now, essentially, this is a 50% halt in population growth if you look at the children and grandchildren who would have been born since 1973 of the aborted. That is what Brother Wayl stated. As of July 2017, the black population in the U.S. stood somewhere around 40 million. You know, now, let's see something. I'm looking at my notes. Okay, I said that. But yes, now, my home state of Louisiana. According to Louisiana Black Advocates for Life, in my home state of Louisiana, there were 7,448 abortions performed in 2020. That means there were on average 20 abortions per day. 21 girls under the age of 15 had abortions in 2020. Another 633 girls between the ages of 15 to 19 had abortions. The largest number of abortions, 2,400, no, 2,700, what? 2,247. I got the lazy eye. I apologize. Okay. The largest number of abortions, 2,247, were performed on women between the ages of 25 and 29. Women ages 20 to 24 were right behind at 2,094. There were also 1,009 women ages 35 and older who had abortions in 2020. African American women accounted for 65% of abortions performed in 2020, a 4% increase from 2019. 64% of babies were aborted within 8 weeks of pregnancy. Now, in the past, as I've stated earlier, abortion. I've stated that abortion is another method of socioeconomic capitalism exploitation that is an extension of slavery and peonage. It is a form of eugenics. The pseudoscience of eugenics has been used to determine who is truly human and of those persons who is most valuable to mankind. Eugenics is a progressive ideology built on Charles Darwin's and Herbert Spencer's ethno-racially biased observations of science and society, using the concept of evolution as its basis. For Black women to participate in the vicious cycle of murder that is abortion is to continue to maintain the Black bodies for profit system, the Black bodies for profit system in America. It is a different facet of the old Chattel slavery system. It's worse than the old Chattel slavery system. The most insipid form of neo-slavery, a reintroduction of Black Chattel slavery and weaponization of birth control as a method of population control, according to Zoe Dutton's article in the Atlantic, Abortion's Racial Gap. Even as the U.S. abortion rate is at its lowest, at that time it was in 2014, the U.S. abortion rate was at its lowest since Roe versus Wade. Women of color are 5 times as likely to terminate a pregnancy as their white counterparts, yet Black women still have higher rates of abortion, even when controlling for income. At almost every income level, African Americans have higher unintended pregnancy and abortion rates than whites or Hispanics, according to the Guttmacher Institute. Abortion and women of color, the bigger picture, which and I'm not giving it credit because they disingenuously tries to redirect focus from the active targeting of Black women by the abortion industry. See, the abortion industry tries to normalize abortion to create a culture of death within the Black community, to normalize that. It's by giving misinformation and disinformation to Black people to paint abortion as a method of birth control rather than a weapon of the population control agenda. As Ruth Bader Ginsburg stated in the interview she gave for the New York Times on July 12th, 2009, the place of women on the court, that, let's see, what did she say? Let's see, because I'm going to quote her directly rather than me just. She said, frankly, I thought that, tongue tied again. Frankly, I thought that at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly in populations that we don't want too many of. Now, the Hyde Amendment. Let me tell you what the Hyde Amendment is. Let's see. I'll read it to you exactly. Well, the Hyde Amendment protects taxpayers from having to fund abortions, basically. That is what the Hyde Amendment does. It protects taxpayers from having to fund abortions, you know. And the pro-abortion advocates have been trying to get the Hyde Amendment struck down for that reason. And because they disguise it like it's all about women's rights and those kinds of things. However, it's not about women's rights. It is not about women's rights. Margaret Sanger and population control enthusiasts, they were very much in favor of like abstinence, basically abstinence. And they weren't in favor of sexual freedom unless you could afford children. And this is the other thing. Not only did there was a being having the ability to afford children was an indicator of one's worthiness of actually procreating in the mind of Malthusian eugenicists and other eugenicists such as Margaret Sanger and W.E.B. Du Bois. But, and I saw my hand do that, I didn't do it on purpose. But your mental health and your physical health were also factors because they figured that you were not, that if you were differently abled, right, you shouldn't be procreating. If you were a criminal, you shouldn't be procreating. If you were a prostitute, you shouldn't be procreating. Very, very many factors. Of what Margaret Sanger referred to as dysgenic basically were used to measure one's fitness to procreate. And many people, especially most of the black community, in terms of how the black community is presented in the media, especially, would be considered to be dysgenic and unfit to procreate. And that is the very community that Margaret Sanger's American Birth Control League, which later evolved into Planned Parenthood, target. Even her grandson, Alexander, targeted the black community. It was his goal. He gave an interview, I think that was in 1991, with the New York Times, stating that they needed to have they needed to have more abortion, Planned Parenthood abortion clinics in Harlem. That was his goal. And as we see, and that's a grandson, Alexander's thinking, as we have seen, at one point, there were more abortions than births among black and Hispanic women, particularly black women in New York. So let's continue now to participate in abortion. It is very, very, very much contributing to Neo-Chattel slavery. And another form of Neo-Chattel slavery is, thanks to Joe Biden, mass incarceration, which became, which exponentially grew due to the private, who I say this, whose growth coincided with the burgeoning of privatized prisons. Okay, so a great contributor to the high rates of abortion in Black communities is abortion providers such as Black Planned Parenthood's intentional targeting of predominantly Black neighborhoods, according to Daniels, Davis, Anacourt, and Parker's 2015 policy report, which can be found on the Congress.gov's website. I have a link to it included in an article that coincides with this podcast. Policy report, the effects of abortion on the Black community. On page 3, it states the prevalence of abortion facilities within minority communities serves as a major contributor to the rate in which Black women obtain abortions. Accordingly, Black women are 5 times more likely to have an abortion than white women. A recent study released by Protecting Black Life and Outreach of Life Issues Institute concluded that 79% of Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities are strategically located within walking distance of African American and/or Hispanic communities. This study coincides with historical revelations that eugenicists dating to the mid 1900s argued that the most effective way they could advance their agenda would be to concentrate population control facilities within targeted communities. Okay, now they have a pie chart that shows Planned Parent targets minority neighborhoods. Percentage of Planned Parent surgical abortion facilities in minority neighborhoods. Which is 79%. And the percentage of Planned Parenthood surgical facilities in other neighborhoods is, guess what? 21%. Right? That's like almost like an inversion of the actual population of the United States in terms of the number of Black people being around 13% of the nation of the United States, and white people being 76% of the population of the United States. Historically, Blacks have been the unwitting victims of a hidden racist agenda of those behind abortion and birth control organizations because they believed they were receiving a new civil right choice. In fact, pro-abortion forces have created messaging that reinforces the notion of abortion as a civil right, as seen in a 2012 meeting of the Congressional Black Caucus and Pro-Choice Caucus. On Capitol Hill, these advocates urged their constituents to challenge the pro-life movement. How wicked is that? How wicked is that? And this is why it is important to be able to distinguish between allies and heroes and your enemies. Okay? People such as Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Margaret Sanger are not heroes of women. They're not allies of women. They are population control enthusiasts, population control advocates, proponents who use feminism as a platform to advance a population control agenda. You know, They used feminism. They even exploited poverty. He's saying that, oh, especially Sanger, when she advocated birth control as an effective method of family planning, because you would be able to control the number of children you had and space them out better. That is what she said. But has anyone who would observe human nature would realize, okay, not only those who would use birth control for that would be using birth control, but those who, you know, and I am not talking about people who've been raped or molested in any way, shape, or form. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people who get out there having casual sex and find themselves pregnant, and then want to hurry up and go have an abortion. Like that's birth control when it's not. It's not birth control. Birth control is to prevent conception. If you are pregnant, you've already conceived. You have a child and you put it up for adoption. That's how that goes. Otherwise, you are committing murder. Now, and this is again, we talked about Alexander Singer, Margaret Singer grandson. Now, these are his exact words. To revisit this, these are his exact words. Right now, we have 3 clinics in the city, and I want to have 10 more. There are so many underserved areas. We currently have a small storefront in Harlem, and it is my first priority to see if we can transform that into a clinic. That was an interview with Roseanne that he did with I think that was with the New York Times, January 23rd, 1991. And that was for the article. No, that was for the article. Another singer leaves Planned Parenthood. And then Roseanne wrote another article in 91 which was titled Planned Parenthood Received $18 million in government funding. In the system of chattel slavery, that is abortion, the slave is worth more dead than alive. Ladies, when you participate in abortion, Black women in particular, you are volunteering to be that which most Black women were, that were enslaved during slavery. You are volunteering to be a breeder. And the body that you are breeding is not going to be like, that body is not going to be grown, the health and well-being of that body is not essential. That body is in the eyes of the abortion industry, that body exists to die so that they can profit off of killing it. That baby, they are profiting off of killing that baby and then selling that baby and the body parts of that baby. That is worse. That is like slave. That is on par with slavery, except it is worse because there's no intention to keep the child alive at all. And when you participate in promote abortion, you are volunteering to be a breeder and a breeder of death. And that the slave, okay, the slave and the baby is the slave in the system of abortion. In the abortion industry, the baby is the slave, and sadly, women still hold their place as breeders. Yet instead of being bred to produce progeny that would generate more free labor for profit for her owner, she is being subtly encouraged to breed to produce body parts for the profit of any public or private entity. Okay? Now I say that she is being subtly encouraged because of the very fact that the policy report, the effects on abortion on the black community stated. And that is that they basically go into the black community. Their messages were the reinforcement of abortion as a civil right, and the feminist movement, women's rights movement was used to normalize a culture of casual sex and promiscuity. And sex, there's that is the reason, that is how babies are created, through sex. That's how babies are created, having sex. So to encourage that type, the type of the devaluing of, which is what Black Lives one of which is a part, which was a part of Black Lives Matter mission statement or their agenda. Basically, the devaluation of the traditional nuclear family, with the man, with the husband and the wife and the children, the man being the head of the household in particular. The destruction of that causes instability and dysfunction within the family. And this is the thing which I've stated before. The dyad, is the man and the woman relationship. They are the dyad. They are the basic unit of a community. Okay? The unity of the man and the woman creates the basic unit of a community. Okay, that is what it does. All right, and from the union of the man and woman, you get the family, and the families build communities. Okay, they build communities, which build society. Which builds nations, which builds civilizations. You see, so that is what is happening with this culture of the promotion of dysfunction and abnormality within the black community. And this is why God said, woe to those who call. Listen, what it God says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine and men of strength to mingle strong drink. And what's always got to be propped up in the black community somewhere? Some old funky liquor store somewhere. Even when it ain't even when it's just a regular convenience store, at some point, alcohol gonna get slid in there. There's a store, the Walgreens, that's uh, about a mile maybe from where I live. There's a Walgreens that did not used to sell alcohol whatsoever. They sold like sodas and juice and different things like that, right? Had a big frozen food and dairy section, right? How about in recent years, they have taken out most of the good dairy and frozen food and reduced the size of the sodas and juice that they have in there. and have put alcohol in the Walgreens. I live in one of Baton Rouge's ghettos. I sure do. I surely do. I live in a hood, right? I live in the ghetto, and that Walgreens is not far from the ghetto in which I live, right? In which I reside. I'll say that. And I think it's very odd. I think it's very odd that Walgreens would do that. Now, mind you, it could be where they just, and they have introduced alcohol in other stores too, but still, it's like okay, my uncle, I have a great uncle who owned a corner store in the neighborhood in which I live when it wasn't necessarily it had not turned into the ghetto yet, right? And he lived next to his store. My uncle refused to sell alcohol. He didn't sell alcohol in that store. That's one thing. And when people look at the movie, see the play A Raisin in the Sun, and look at the movie A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry, they, some are sympathetic toward Walter Lee not being able to realize his dream of opening a liquor store in the neighborhood. I'm glad Walter Lee's dream got dashed because alcoholism caused so much dysfunction within a family and within a community until it's not funny. If you look at the writings of Charles Shinneke, he was a former Catholic priest that helped to usher in prohibition, and I think if not in, I think he was in Canada, and I know he come here too, and he got excommunicated because of the shady. He was trying to do the right thing, and the corrupt priests that were trying to fleece the flock for money and have sex with the women and young girls, the women and girls in the community. That he saw that and he was reporting on it, and basically there was a conspiracy to try to have him excommunicated. Abraham Lincoln was the lawyer he went to trial, and Abraham Lincoln was the lawyer that represented him. You can find his writings in the Google Play Store. On the Google Play Store, you find Charles Shinneke. I think that's how you pronounce it. Shinneke. I don't know. He was French, I think. But you find his writings there. I want to Chick Publications. Chick Publications has a book, has a illustrated book about him, and it's very good. It's very good. But yes, this is what is happening with abortion, and notice even in the media, you see this backwards promotion you backwards with no balance, especially where you see this promotion of like just this wild, somewhat irresponsible recklessness that keeps getting passed over. It's grown folks. No, no, because being an adult, it means being a mature, responsible adult, and means having the wisdom and discernment to know that even though you can do a lot of what you want, you have to be able to know whether or not you should, whether it's the best thing for you to do. You see, and Paul discusses that in the New Testament. Yes. Now, Carol Novielli, right? She's a pro-life advocate. I found, I saw her tweets on Twitter. You know, She shared a video from YouTube called "The Billionaires Behind Abortion." It's an expose that uncovers the pro-abortion men who are seeking to control global population now, and Bill Gates is one of them that's featured in the expose. I have a link to that included in the article as well. Ms. Noviella is so sweet and wonderful. And again, she's an ally. Margaret Sanger, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, no. Lila Rose, Cheryl Sullinger, allies. You know, they are allies. Now let's discuss enemies too. The liberal progressive extremists, particularly those in the Democrat Party, do not care about you. Especially, they don't care about nobody but themselves and their pocketbook. This is why gentrification gets to a point where it goes unchecked, because it's the liberal progressive extremists that are benefiting from gentrification. This is why they got no problem coming to help you protest and riot in your communities, black people. Tear up your community so that the property values lowered and the businesses, look, the property values will be lowered because the houses and all that kind of stuff and the surroundings will be tore down and dilapidated due to the rioting. Excuse me. Excuse me. And so that the businesses that you have will leave, which means that the economy within the community will collapse. And people within the community, look, lawlessness would abound because, okay, you take away the jobs, hey, crime will rise, right? And then people will be so desperate to leave the area that they will sell low just so that they could get some money to move somewhere else. And then you get these little Antifa type folks, little liberal progressive folks, little young liberal progressive folks swooping on in there, buying up property. And don't think it's just the white ones either, because there are a lot of black entrepreneurs who, like old vampire, old buzzards, are trying to swoop in to feed off black, poor, impoverished, dilapidated black communities so they can buy up the property for cheap, right? And then some say, some say they're trying to help provide affordable housing and accessible businesses and other things for the black people within those communities. We'll see, because the pattern has been exploitation, even to the point that while many black business owners are saying shop black, buy black, yeah, we shop black with our green dollars. Then they take our green dollars and go shop white and don't even live in the communities in which their businesses are located. They live in mixed communities or predominantly white communities and spend their money in those other communities, taking our black money and putting it there instead of doing like what Dr. Claude Anderson say and letting the dollar bounce around uh, several times. I think he said about 18 times. Letting the dollar bounce around several times within the community. Before spending money outside of the community. You see, This is why I don't let that buy black business, shop black stuff guilt me, because I'm like, okay, yeah, I see where your business located. And I see that you black. I see your business located in the black community, and you are black, and your business is in a black community, but you don't live in a black community. You don't live in a black community. Your kids don't even go to a predominantly black school. Okay, when your kid it's involved in an interracial relationship, you brag on it like it's a form of upward mobility for you and your family and your kids. Like that's a status symbol. I love is beautiful. If God blessed you to be with somebody and that person is not black, then God blessed you to be with that person. You see what I'm saying? And that's beautiful. But when people start dating as status, using race as some sort of status symbol of upward mobility, and this is another thing. Some of the immature black men, all right, and this is who I'm talking to. I'm talking to immature black men. You better quit going around calling black women dark. Forget you. Forget you. We don't forget you, okay? Because there was you going around doing that. Most black women don't want you anyway, because you goofy as all outdoors, and your behavior shows it, because you goofy enough to be saying that goofy bull crap all in public on the internet like a stupid fool. Now, back to the issue of abortion. All right. Liberal progressives are only using abortion as a bargaining chip and guarantee to ensure that they remain in favor, particularly in light of Biden's reckless decisions concerning foreign and domestic policies. Okay, that's a manipulative strategy that they are using. They are preying on your vulnerabilities. Many times the reasons that you can have okay, gentrification, midlining, redlining, okay. If one were to even look at white privilege as being this major issue, the persons that are actually benefiting from white privilege are the white liberal progressives. That is who is benefiting from white privilege. Look at Nancy Pelosi. Have you seen have you seen that video of her nudging over Myra Flores' little girl? Myra Flores is Hispanic. She's a Hispanic GOP representative who just, it was historical that she won the election for the office and for which she ran, right? And her little girl was standing next to Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy Pelosi nudged that little girl over with her elbow. Like that little girl wasn't good enough to be standing next to her looking like a candle melting and stuff. And I'm like, okay, these people, her, Joe Biden, they don't like black people. They don't like people of color. What they like to do is exploit people of color. And that goes for Maxine Waters as well. She's like Du Bois. Because she was black, she knew that black issues that impacted black people all around were going to impact her. So therefore, she tells, oh, black this, black that, racism. We gotta fight racism. And here's the thing: a lot of the issues that some of them call out is racism. Put like this: their approach to those issues is from a selfish standpoint, because they use the rest of us as these mascots to parade around to help advance the cause of themselves as individuals, because they will say, okay, this program, these programs and things, this is to benefit the black community, but not all black people. It's the black elite who benefits from most of that, even when it comes to certain programs. Like for instance, even in the little league, they had the little league World Little League series, and the baseball team that was playing that in one game years ago, little black team was in the series, right? And I think they won, but then it was found out. Okay, the team was from an impoverished, predominantly black neighborhood, but then later it was found out that kids that were from upper middle class to wealthy black neighborhood had been bussed in to be on the team. Now it's those kids that were, being ushered in like a little Trojan, ushered in, like they were being put in the Trojan horse to reap the benefits that were meant for the disadvantaged kids. And that often occurs in the black community where you have these black leaders interloping on things that are meant for the black people who really need it. And then they are the black elitists are the main ones trying to prop themselves up like they're leaders. And then whatever benefits or advantages that they get, whatever benefits and rights that they get that are supposedly for the regular black people, right? All the black people, they keep all that stuff to themselves. And if you read E. Franklin Frazier's book, The Black Bourgeoisie, that is a pattern with them, even right down to student loan money and stuff. Even when you go to certain HBCUs, unless you are part of those black elitist secret societies and stuff, right? You connected to somebody involved with that foolishness, you are not going to get the help you need, and you will basically get discouraged, get treated either indifferently or discouraged to the point that you want to quit school. I know of people who have been in school, they might have been struggling or something like that, going to their teachers seeking help, and their teachers just flat out tell them, you ain't college material, you need to quit school. College ain't for you, you know. And I'm like, okay, don't you see this person actually trying? They trying to help themselves. They trying to do better and improve. And this is what you have to tell them? Are you stupid? Anyway, but yes, it's like you're like, is this is what you have to tell them? Oh, well, college ain't for you. But then at the same time, especially at one particular university, well, actually two that I know of, one, it only costs $1,500 to purchase a bachelor's degree from that school. And then with the other ones, it's famous Howard University. But they're giving millions of dollars of scholarships and stuff, financial aid money to certain people. But I know as a person who got like a Pell Grant, and like my need was real. I had a lot of need. And the Pell Grant, got a Pell Grant, try to get student loan for why they come up with buku excuse. Oh well, you don't qualify for a student loan. and but yet I knew of a person who had 3 jobs and they got a scholarship. And look, they got a scholarship, they got a Pell Grant, and a student loan as well. And they daddy owned a restaurant chain. Well, not the chain, but he owned a franchise, a restaurant franchise. And I'm looking like, ain't no way she qualified for financial aid, qualified for all the financial aid she getting. And then these people coming at me talking about, oh, you can't get the student loan, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? So, but with her dad, she used to go offering people food from her daddy's store in exchange for them hooking her up because she's somebody who was a fairly all right, decent acquaintance, right? I ain't, I'm not gonna go into too much. I ain't gonna go into no more detail about it. But at the time, I was like, "This some bull crap right here," is what I was thinking. Now, think about this. Amidst a shortage of baby formula and a shortage of tampons, the Democrats are focused on manipulating the possible overturning of Roe versus look. Well, not even a possible Roe overturning, because I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna explain right there. I started writing this article that coincides with this podcast before Roe versus Wade was overturned. Now, but yet still, when you look at AOC and old Maxine Waters, they are still using Roe v. Wade as a way to frighten and anger their waning voter base into voting for them in the upcoming elections. Listen to this. Democrats raised more than $7 million in hours after leak of draft Supreme Court abortion opinion. That's by Brian Schwartz from CNBC. I have a link to the article included in my article. Joe Biden and the Democrats do not care about you. They care about the monetary support of special interest groups that fund them, such as Planned Parenthood. Okay? They don't, a lot of them don't even write laws anymore, though Joe Biden needs to stop doing writing his laws. So that's if he ever wrote in, matter of fact, when one thinks about it. But listen to this. This is from an article from, let's see, Focus for Health, and it was in USA Today as well. You elect them, the article's called You Elect Them to Write New Laws. They are letting corporations do it instead. The corporations that are giving them donations and to their campaigns and things like that, they are actually writing the legislation and sending it to these representatives, these senators, right? And all those folks are doing is just signing off on it. Listen at this. Planned Parenthood to launch $1.25 million. And this is back in 2020. Planned Parenthood to launch $1.25 million Pennsylvania push to help back down ballot Democrats. Down ballot voting. What group was promoting that? Could it be somebody, a group that also had the interests of the Burners, supporters of Bernie Sanders? Think about that. Planned Parenthood launches $45 million campaign to back Democrats in 2020. Now, and according to Open Secrets, website, according to OpenSecrets.org, Planned Parenthood has only donated to Democrats running for federal offices. Yes. Planned Parenthood PAC contribute. You can find that on there. Planned Parenthood PAC contributions to federal candidates. In this regard, America has become much like Mystery Babylon, whom God was adamantly against, as we read in Revelation 18. We focus on Revelation 18:10 through 13. After these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, it's fallen. and it's become the habitation of devils and the hold of every foul spirit and cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not her plague. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her, as she rewarded you, and double unto her double, and double unto her double according to her works, and the cup which she had filled to her double. How much she had glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, and mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and thyine and all thyine wood and all manner vessels of ivory and all manner vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afore all and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing and saying, Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour she is made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God had avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters and but shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee, for thou mergest with the great men of the earth. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Now, a good pastor knows that it is wrong to harm children in any way, shape, form, or fashion. God is adamantly against the harming of children. This black pastor states, let's see, now this is a pastor. On lifenews.com, this article was written with his pastor. Okay, and the article is about one of my favorite pro-life journalists, Micaiah Bilger. And it is Black Pastor. Abortion is racism. Black babies are being lynched in the womb. That's right. And that is Reverend Johnny Hunter. And he has been adamantly warning the black community against abortion and speaking out against it. He's a pastor and leader at the Life Education and Resource Network, which is the largest African American evangelical pro-life ministry in the U.S. And he was advocating against abortion, which is what Micaiah wrote about, at in the film My 521. I have a link to her article in the article that is accompanying this podcast episode. But yes, it's that progressive concept of eugenics that liberal extremists promote to exploit black bodies for profit. They don't justify slavery using eugenic talking points anymore. They continue eugenics via abortion and selling baby parts. Black women, please listen. Those who are telling you that you would be healthier and wealthier, have access to more opportunity, you can live your best life if you didn't have children or a husband to hold you back, are wrong. Why are they wrong? Their motives are wrong. They don't want you to procreate because they want you to feel that you are inferior. They want you to be inferior. They are scared that you aren't inferior to them, because then, being the elitists that they are, there will be no one of whom they can justify subjugating, okay, and marginalize and disenfranchise. Overall, they don't want you to feel that you can overcome your circumstances by truly being victorious in your life. They want you to feel strong enough. They don't want you to feel strong enough to face your challenges head on with the guidance of God. And they don't want you to rely on God to solve your problems. Listen at what Paul says in Philippians 4. Therefore, my brethren, dearly beloved and longed for, my joy and crown, so stand fast in the Lord, my dearly beloved. I beseech you, Ordius and Syntyche, that they be of the same mind in the Lord, and I entreat thee also, true yoke fellow, help those women which labor with me in the gospel, with Claymont also, and with my fellow laborers whose names are in the book of life. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Let your moderation be known unto all men. The Lord is at hand. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you. But I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at the last your care of me hath flourished again, wherein ye were also careful, but ye lacked opportunity. Not that I speak in respect of one, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased and I know how to abound everywhere, and in all things I am instructed to be full to both. Let me read that again. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Notwithstanding, ye have done well that ye did communicate with my afflictions. Now ye Philippians know also that in the beginning of the gospel, when I departed from Macedonia, no church communicated with me as concerning giving and receiving, but ye only, for even in Thessalonica ye sent once and again unto my necessity, but not because I desire a gift, but I desire fruit that may abound to your account. But I have all and abound. I am full, receiving of Epaphroditus the things which were sent from you, an odor of sweet smell, a sacrifice acceptable, well pleasing to God. But my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Now unto God and our Father be glory and forever and ever. Amen. Salute every saint in Christ Jesus. The brethren which are with me greet you. All the saints salute you, chiefly they that are of Caesar's household. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. Amen. To the Philippians from Rome by Epaphroditus. The liberal, progressivist, extremists, and corrupt Democrat politicians want you to be in a sunken place of hopelessness with no answers and no way out. They want you to feel like you have no answers and no way out, but Jesus is the answer. Okay? Jesus is the answer, and he is the way, the truth, and the life. And so, focus on God. Okay? Focus on God. The liberal, progressive, extremists are offering to help you take care of your baby. They are providing a system that encourages healthy relationships, marriages, and families. They are being counterproductive to that. Look at BLM's mission statement, their agenda that they used to have on their site, right? They are telling you to abandon the idea of forming strong relationships, all the while promoting reckless lifestyle choices. Twerking, twerking for I think when they twerking for Martin Luther King Day like fools. That don't make no sense. It's stupid. And y'all, if y'all can't really just make it pop anyway, don't twerk at all. Even if you can make it pop, but anyway, just don't do it. Stop it. If you do twerk, twerk for your husband, twerk for your wife in the privacy of y'all bedroom or y'all own home. You know. Anyway, now They tell you to choose career first. Yet they don't share the dang. Look, they tell you to choose the career first, right? Put all your efforts and energies into your career. And meanwhile, you don't even know your family. That truly for the people, for the individuals that they are. Many people discovered this during the pandemic when they had to be at home with their family and was like, oh wow, I it's like they realized they didn't spend the quality time with them that was really required, you know. Now, also, they don't share the real dangers of abortion or birth control pills and devices with you. There have been women who've had their IUDs embedded into their uterus that has caused them major reproductive health issues, right? There are women There are women who have become sterile due to birth control, sterile due to, I mean, develop cancer due to certain birth controls. Particularly, like, especially like in some women, even when their mothers were on birth control, the daughters develop cancer. Now, listen to this. This is an article from the Washington Examiner. Now, wait, no, not that one. But here we go. Because we discussed it one like it earlier. Okay. Progressivism is an elitist ideology that only seeks the sacrifice of the most of mankind to build a more streamlined and efficient version of man, which they view as evolution, which but is really de-evolution, right? De-evolution. And this means that most of mankind and the true diversity, the individuality therein, and the innate caring and nurturing of mankind are viewed as detriments to progress by progressivism. Look, by progressivists, rather. Movements that foment a culture of death spawn from progressivism, such as the Stop Having Kids .org movement, right? Stop Having Kids movement, right? In that agenda, mankind, those kinds of agendas, mankind loses its humanity physically, the physical numbers through population reduction, as well as the physical genetic nature of mankind. Mankind also loses its human spirituality. Yet the liberal progressivist extremists do not care, nor do your corrupt politicians. You know, listen to this. Planned Parenthood's new look, they report documents. They had a report that documented for the years through 2019 through 2020 that they killed at least 354,879, no, 871, see, 354,871 babies for those years, 2019 to 2020, while receiving over $618 million in taxpayers' money to do so. That's from LifeSiteNews.com. I have a link to the article included in the article that coincides with this podcast episode. And the dehumanization of targeted groups, which is what Margaret Sanger, people such as Margaret Sanger, has done to advance their population control agenda. The dehumanization of targeted groups and individuals unjustly vilifies them and creates a narrative that leads to the general perspective that builds a consistent such that such persons are detriments to society and mankind. That has been the tactic of the mainstream media for years. In an article from the Insider, listen, it's entitled "A New Project Details Newspapers' Role in Lynchings Post 1865." A historian says newspapers were a pillar to uphold the white supremacist political economy. We saw this even up to like the up to the LA riots, even with Rodney King, even with George Floyd, where the media exploited race. The media exploited race to generate ratings and for his newspaper go sales and stuff and its sponsors and stuff. That is what they do. They help promote and advance agendas too. That is what they do. Matter of fact, the media, mainstream media, has been instrumental in dehumanizing Black people in society. So now, when we look at Roe versus Wade, Roe was Norma McCorvey. Norma McCorvey did not want, like this. She repented and regretted her participation in that case and became a pro-life advocate for the rest of her day who sought the overturn of the case of Roe versus Wade. Hold on a second.